I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Don Le Batard.
I listened to Dan's show while I was in Florida last week, you know. I listened every day, came in the afternoon. He's got a good show.
Stugatz.
It's
got a very good show.
Oh, it's impeccably produced. I mean, oh, goodness. That is like a training show for kids on how to produce radio.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
We love Joe Thomas. He's going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Serena Williams is slated to return to competitive tennis next month at the Fed Cup. Following the Cavaliers' 114-102 loss to the Spurs, Coach Tyronn Lue said that it's finally time to shake up his lineup. Please. And finally, Uber's CEO told Bloomberg that there will definitely be full autonomous taxis, but we still may have to wait 10 to 15 years for it to happen.
Guillermo, was that Cavs thing in the time capsule? Was that something that was in the time capsule of signs for sure that that LeBron is leaving?
Let's look and see.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, two things last night on the time capsule.
Yep, it's there.
The lineup change, which is forthcoming on the time capsule. Also, LeBron will start doing things on social media to cause a stir.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Congratulating himself.
Yes, that was the height of narcissism.
No,
right
and
there.
he was liking things, liking new Heat uniforms.
And that Boogie Cousins tweet yesterday, man. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
All right. I feel really deeply sorry for this excellent schlub. Like, this guy is really excellent at football.
I think everyone does.
I mean,
is there
he
anyone
is
doesn't
so
feel sorry
good.
for
He's
him?
a damn 10-time Pro Bowler. He's a rose in a sewer. This poor guy. Joe Thomas with us now is so excellent at what he does, and they keep putting him on ESPN, and the graphic is always 1-31 in his last 32 games, or has played with 20 Browns quarterbacks. So, Joe, thank you for being on the show. But is there any one graphic that they've put next to you in the last couple of days that is the single most, oh, come on, don't put that with my name?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. You know, I don't even see those graphics, so it's hard for me to get too upset about that.
Oh, you're just hearing about this for the first time?
Yeah, I actually did not know I've only won one game in the last couple of years, so now I'm offended.
I do, though. I feel terrible for you. Are you wandering around like you're a giant, wealthy man who is excellent at what he does? When you wander around, do you feel the people pitying you?
It's not palpable until I come on your show, my friend.
They don't approach you like, hey, we're sorry, Joe.
Nobody stinks so much. You are so good at football, dude. I just want people to know it, but they can't under the present conditions.
Well, I appreciate that. Maybe I need to start wearing a kick me sign or something like that so people really have a little more appreciation for, my talents on the field.
Well, let me ask you this as someone who has enjoyed your work the last couple of days on ESPN. Do you enjoy broadcasting and being funny and being light and podcasting more than you do football? Because you really do seem to enjoy what you're doing.
I am enjoying the last few days here. I've really enjoyed the podcast. I like the radio. I like that stuff because it's a little lighter. You can kind of go in any direction you want to go in, and it's not a little 30-second bite about, talking about this clip of this player or anything like that. So it has been fun. I like joking around. I like being light and taking my career and all those things kind of less serious than some guys. Well,
is there anything that you'd like to talk about now outside of the purview of football that just has you fascinated? Things outside, because you seem to be, you got drafted and you were fishing. You were fishing even though you were taken in the top 5. Like, football just seems to be this ancillary thing that you're great at because you're giant, but you have other things that interest you.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a Renaissance man. I like a lot of different things. I like talking politics, entertainment, football, basketball, you name it. I'm somebody that just enjoys a good-hearted conversation.
All right, so are you like fired up about the Oscars? Like, are you interested in doing movie reviews or not?
Actually, that's the one thing I don't really get into is the movies, just because I don't have a whole lot of time.
What's the thing you're most passionate about other than football, outside of sports? Give us something.
And family.
Oh, boy. I like the outdoors. I would say that's probably boring, but I love getting outside, fishing, hunting, camping, all that type of stuff. That's kind of how I grew up in Wisconsin.
So how good is Joe Thomas as an outdoorsman? Like, can you tell some majestic story of like a bear being scared of you?
Yeah, there was a lot of bears that were scared of me growing up. I kicked their ass all the time. But no, that's a great question. I think I'm about a C+ outdoorsman. I'm getting there. I'm trying to do a little bit better, and maybe, when I retire someday, I'll have a little bit more time. Maybe I can bump that up to like a B-. All
right. So how does this work though? Does it work with, are you all guns on the outdoorsman, or you might somebody who would chase down a boar like Channing Crowder used to do, go with bow and arrow, or maybe even just gut it with a knife?
I'm not sure I got the courage to chase a hog with a knife. I've seen some of those things up close, and they could definitely do some real damage. And I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the wimp of the outdoors world.
Yeah, that's why I gave myself a C+.
Right. You're pretty good in this whole barbaric world where men fight each other, but it seems like jungles aren't your thing, Thomas.
Yeah. I try to avoid those. I'd rather just go toe to toe with like a 350-pound D lineman.
Right. Do you know who this Rizzo person is? This gas bag in your radio market who
you know him?
Who has been attacking you? Do you know who this person is?
Yeah, he's one of my biggest podcast fans of the Tomahawk Show, so I really appreciate him listening. He's a loyal follower, and he really definitely likes to discuss topics from the show on his show, so I appreciate him.
All right, well, he evidently is at war with you. I haven't heard any of this sound, but let's hear it together as we try to agitate the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns.
Does Joe Thomas understand that when he's done playing for the Browns, no one's going to give a crap about him? These players don't understand it, folks. They don't. They all want to be your best friend when they're done playing. When they're playing, they can't call you. They can't come in. They can't do anything. When they're done, check out my Tomahawk podcast. Oh, I'll get right on that, Joe. You know what I'll remember Joe Thomas for? Losing.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow,
this
Thomas,
guy.
man.
This guy.
Whoa.
Oh, my God. But you got to rip him. You got to come back over the top, Thomas.
Hold on. We got more.
We got more sound. Let's see if we can get...
Yeah, more. Then you rip him.
Let's see if we can get Joe Thomas even more agitated.
He's coming to my world, baby. You're coming to I'm a made man in this town, in this media. You're coming to my world. You gotta earn your way in my world. You don't just get a free pass because you were good at playing tackle in the NFL.
Yes, he does.
Good luck with the Tomahawk, Joe.
I do appreciate the 2 Tomahawk drops there for me. It's a big podcast out there, number 2 on iTunes right now. So I really got to say thanks to Tony for being such a fan. And that's a misconception about me. People think that they can kind of get under my skin, or they think they can rile me up or get me upset by taking shots at me. But really, it just makes me get a good laugh. And that's kind of what I enjoy about the media.
That's nice, and that's jolly, and that's fun, and that's great. But again, you're now in Rizzo's world, Joe Thomas, and I don't think you realize what that means, and I don't think that you realize how unprepared you are for what he is going to rain down on that terrible haircut of yours.
He's coming to my world, baby.
Whoa.
Wait, can we talk about this haircut for a second?
Yeah,
Are you going for Barry Melrose? What are you doing there?
I am. He's been a hero of mine, since I was a little boy. I grew up in Wisconsin, a great hockey state, God's country up there. And I always said if I was ever going to be on ESPN, I really need to go with the Barry Melrose look and represent all my hockey friends back in Wisconsin.
Nice.
How much trepidation do you have about now entering Tony Rizzo's world?
I'm frightened. Actually, I hope they make a T-shirt that says something about Tony Rizzo's world that I could wear on my award-winning Tomahawk podcast, because it seems like he really has something out for me. I'm not exactly sure why, but we'd love to have him on the Tomahawk Show so he can beef it up with me and tell me all the reasons why he's such a big fan of the Tomahawk Show.
You're coming to I'm a made man.
Made man.
He's a made man in this podcast world.
I tell you what, he's really playing up that rivalry that's not there.
Okay. All right, Joe, we always delight talking to you. Thank you for making the time for our show. But I am just curious. I could say this, I hope, without insulting you. And I'm told that the podcast...
You can't insult me.
The podcast is a fun listen. But did you think to yourself, like just in your spare time, I don't know, you've had a lot of head banging over the course of your career. Man, the world really needs another podcast, and I'm the left tackle to give it to him.
Well, I'm not sure if you know, but I was the first lineman in NFL history, so I figured that being the first podcaster in NFL history would be a nice segue into my post-football career.
Well done, Don.
All right.
But hey, I got one more thing real quick, Dan. I know that you like to talk about my hair yesterday. I'm going to challenge you. I don't think you have the courage to go with the mullet over for an entire show. And I would really like to see that. I'd like to come back and we could mullet off together.
All right. The mullet competition
are you down with
against
that?
Joe Thomas.
Okay.
Down? But wait a minute.
What Thomas is saying.
No courage.
Wait, Joe, just so we're clear, if he does this, you're going to come down and hang out with us for a show? Is that
I
what
would
you
love to.
Okay.
I'll hang out with you for 24 hours straight.
Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that. But
I do.
But wait a minute. So my big prize on having a mullet off with you is that A, you would take yet another L, as if you haven't had enough of those lately. But B, my big prize is that I'd have a better mullet than you.
Hey, man, the mullet's coming back. You watch. People are going to start wearing this on TV coming soon. And don't forget the comb over aspect. It's a mullet over. It's not just your regular 1980s mullet.
Right. Okay. Well, welcome to ESPN, Joe. It's been a pleasure having you around here to kick around for the last couple of days.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe.
Hi, this is Papi. Do you know that my TV show Highly Questionable is not only on ESPN2 every day at 4:30 Eastern, it is also available as a podcast. You can listen or subscribe to the Highly Questionable podcast on ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don Lebatard. Stugats.
When you have the hammer, you gotta use it.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
I am not making this up when I say that I believe that I can nominate Joe Thomas in the history of sports excellence as a guy who deserves more of your pity because his excellence is not being rewarded by anything. I don't know who else I would go to on the list of people who are great at their jobs, but then you're not going to leave or stay. You're going to just cough in between. I'm going to have to worry. Okay, but I'm going to have to worry about you. You can't either cough quietly or leave. You need me to stop everything I'm doing to attend to the fact that you can't drink correctly?
I'm joking, man. Kind bar.
He just shoveled into his face. Mike, look at here. This is my daily joy. Mike, here's a garbage can. I mean, it should end like this. This is how it should end. You should die on air. Yeah, you should die on air. Okay. Always professional.
Yeah.
My daily existence, Mike, is I watch him slowly consume like rust rots pipe. Slowly consume a Kind bar every day, leaves crumbs all over the place, leaves crumbs on his shirt. He decided here, we were just during the break having a conversation about his health, and his last act was to just shovel pieces of chocolate and nuts into his mouth. And then, of course, it comes time to work, and he is neither at the microphone nor having left the studio. That's $5.
That's fine.
Oh, is it? See if I have any money. You were saying?
Mike,
I'm
not even kidding when I tell you that there has never been anyone I've ever covered in sports who I know to be excellent. Not Barry Sanders, not Calvin Johnson. Like, those guys lost in Detroit, but they're Hall of Famers, and everyone knows they're Hall of Famers, and no one questions the greatness of Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders. Joe Thomas has been this lonely excellence getting swallowed in Cleveland for a decade. The guy goes entire seasons without allowing sacks. I'm defying you to come up with someone who has deserved better more than Joe Thomas. Like, give me an athlete anywhere in the history of athletics where you're like, I know that guy was great, and yet he was betrayed by so many people around him, so many managements, that his entire career, a Hall of Fame career that would have been one of the most epic careers in the history of the sport, would get swallowed by just how awful Cleveland is at football.
Dan Marino?
I mean, but Marino made Super Bowls. People say Marino's among the best ever. Marino's among the most respected. Joe Thomas could walk in anywhere in America and nobody knows who the hell he is.
How about Barkley?
No, but I'm not doing this. Stugotz, look, we're talking about not winning the ultimate thing, and we're talking about an unending, unprecedented string of losing. I'm talking about Joe Thomas plays in the sewer of the NFL. It's barely professional football. Joe Thomas's team exists to be laughed at. That is not professional sports that Joe Thomas is playing. Joe Thomas is playing amateur sports against professionals. And he's the only one worth a damn for a decade in the entire organization. I just don't have a precedent to put it up against. Hall of Famers produce some winning. At some point along the way, you have a 9-7 season. You put together Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson quit because their greatness was merely getting them to 8-8.
I think you'll see it probably in baseball because it's harder for one person. I mean, A-Rod won an MVP on a last-place team. Mattingly had a career where he didn't make the playoffs until late.
Andre Dawson in one of the most gangster moves of all time. Guillermo, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. One of the gangster moves of all time. Did you know that Andre Dawson went to the Cubs before his MVP season and offered a blank check as, here, pay me whatever you want, and then had an MVP season? It was one of the most gangster things ever done in the history of sports.
Yeah, so I think baseball is comparable. I've never really seen anything quite like this in football. Barry Sanders made the playoffs. Joe Thomas has had one winning season, went 10-6. They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, by virtue of being the Browns and having a 10-6 season, that should be a bye right into the Super Bowl.
Can we?
Do I have snot on my nose?
Well, I was just going to ask. Yes, you have.
I do?
Yes,
okay.
you have snot all
I'll
around.
Be back, guys.
Right nostril.
You have snot on your nose. But I want.
So does Clooney.
I want to address here publicly. You can go ahead and clean the snot off your face.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I want to address publicly just the general slovenly grossness of Stugotz. We are on national radio. All his dreams have come true, Mike Ryan. He is at the height of all his broadcasting excellence, and all he's doing is complaining that he's got to get up at 8:20 in the morning to do Wingo and Golic. Like, he's arrived at all his dreams, and he's complaining about all of the dreams.
Oh, I got to find this article that he sent me yesterday.
Okay, but I want to show you what he did for an effort in terms of working during this segment, okay? He had an incredible coughing fit that ended up with snot all over his face. And while I was trying to get off the ground a conversation about Joe Thomas that might have been mildly interesting, all he came in with was Charles Barkley, Marino, any other sports radio people who have never won a title. Like, between coughing and being awful, I don't know which was worse, his analysis or his general hygiene. I don't know which one's worse.
He sent me this thing yesterday. I gave him too much credit with an article. Of course, it's not an article. It's just a YouTube video.
Yep, easier.
It's not you. Commuting is bad for your health.
There you go.
See what I mean?
No,
so are Kime bars.
Okay, but here's the thing about Stugotz, okay, because it's fairly amazing, and he doesn't realize that right now Disney should get a refund for what he did this segment.
Yeah, they should.
Disney should get an entire
they're deserving of it. They're not going to get it, but they are deserving.
Right.
Of it. Yeah.
But we were just marveling as a show at how you've arrived at all your dreams, and now all you're doing is complaining about it.
Yeah. Well,
how is that possible? How is it possible that you are now complaining about having to appear on Golic and Wingo?
I dream too big. Feeling better now, though. Thanks for your concern.
I mean, honestly, I don't think, Guillermo, put it on the poll, has anyone in the history of this company been worse during a radio segment than Stugotz was during this one?
Dan Le Batard.
Are you not alarmed by how much Stugotz ate last night?
Stugotz.
I had no idea. He ate a lot. He was pretty gross when I left. I had no idea that he went on this, grazing.
Well, here's the weird thing about Stugotz, too, though. When Stugotz eats here, he never finishes anything. I know, because I'm always cleaning it up.
Oh, it's infuriating.
After he's left.
He leaves one wing.
No, but
in case someone wants it, I mean.
Just eat the wing.
I thought Roy always ate the leftover wing.
Roy always throws it away.
All right, I'm a slob.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
This radio show is the biggest thing in AM radio, AM sports. It's the biggest thing in sports podcasting. It's a big thing. And as it grows, I realize that we are a marching band to nowhere, that we continue to make a lot of noise, make a racket, keep getting attendant audience. And what I wanted to ask you is, our last effort on this front to help Central Florida, the University of Central Florida, was a disaster, a total failure. We bought T-shirts. We wanted to declare them national champions, and it just fell apart. After a lot of planning, the whole thing fell apart. So I am hesitant to take this on as a cause, but someone help me with this, please. Mike, do you believe that this marching band to nowhere has the power to get the one-handed linebacker for the University of Central Florida a scouting combine invite because he's being wronged because he has one hand? This kid is great at football. I don't understand why you would not invite him to your combine, and I'm bothered on his behalf, Stugotz, that he has not been invited to get a chance for the NFL because they are underestimating him because he has one hand.
I mean, if he's good enough, though, don't you think? I understand what you wanted to do.
He is good enough, but it's the same thing I've been telling you about this football team. That football team was good enough to deserve the national championship last year and was denied it by rule, and now they're doing the same damn thing to their one-handed linebacker who I've watched for 2 seasons be a total defensive menace. Nobody can block him. His brother is in professional football, and nobody can block this kid. He should get a combine invite.
That's fine. I don't think it's some sort of conscious decision the NFL is making collectively. If they thought he was good enough, they'd invite him to the combine.
How can you not invite him? How can you not?
Because they don't think he's good enough, Dan.
Oh, for the love of
God. I'm not
God.
saying he's not good enough. I have no idea. In fact, I tend to side with you that he probably should be invited, but that's what they're telling you. They don't think that he is.
He was a second-team All-American, and I'm reading some articles. This isn't open and shut. Their process of inviting people to the combine is not over yet. So by raising awareness and banging a loud drum here, apply some public pressure to the NFL. This guy deserves it on merit, not just because we're yelling in a microphone.
I am telling you, this is a true, and it's heartfelt, and it's real, and it's some of the best stuff that you find in sports. It's the reason I got into the sports business 25 years ago, because it could get you in the feelings. I remember watching the University of Central Florida and making fun of the University of Central Florida because, of course, they were 0-12 and losing to Furman. They had a linebacker who had one hand. Of course, they're going in the discount bin to get their recruits. Of course, that team is 0-12. And then I see that kid, and he is the conference player of the year on defense last year. And then I see that kid this year, and his team goes unbeaten all year, and he was there for 0-12, and now he's there for perfect. And not only do I see him, but I see him wrecking offense after offense with one hand, going in there and stripping the ball with his nub, intercepting passes. And when that kid stood up in the backfield against Auburn with his arms raised and one of the hands was missing and he was screaming at the sky, I was palpably moved in a way that, holy bleep, kid, I don't fancy myself a cynic, but holy bleep, you've made me look like a fool. You are an unbelievably moving, inspirational story. And the NFL ought to be selling that. You can invite that kid to your combine because that story is amazing. He's nobody's pity project. This kid might get to the NFL with one bleeping hand because he's that good at football.
It's something you would never watch, the combine. Would you be more inclined to watch it if he was participating at the combine?
I mean, I don't even know honest to God, I don't have any idea how he does a bench press. I don't even know what do you do?
There's a prosthetic that he wears to help him do it. I'm reading some reports out of the Senior Bowl, which practices just started up this week, and day one he was very impressive. This guy will totally get an invite to the combine. He's just too good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mike. I can't believe what I don't understand. I don't mean to minimize this by poking fun at a disability, because at times we have talked about the idea of, if you're missing fingers or hands for some reason, that's one of the places in the modern age where we can have some fun at your expense. I am watching this kid play football, and I don't understand how he's doing it. This is someone who is dealing with a disability, and he's playing football. And he's not only not impeded in any way that I can tell, he's making the kind of plays that you would say to yourself, those plays can't be made by a one-handed person. You need two hands to play that sport.
All right, so what do you want to do? Let's get behind this. Let's be the show that helps him get an invite to the combine.
I want to know how we put some of our cruddy little power behind somebody and rattle some cages and get somebody an invite who deserves it, because how many different ways would you like Shaquem Griffin to prove to you that he merits the highest of respect? And at the very least, if you will not afford him the highest of respect, just afford him an opportunity. Give him an opportunity as a league, because it's an unbelievable story. And he's earned it. And in every turn, man, this kid has been doubted. He's been told throughout. We've talked to him a couple of different times. He's been told throughout, you can't, you won't, you mustn't, don't try. And at every step of the way, he overachieves. He overachieves beyond anybody's imagination.
But, Dan, I'm guessing just a kid like him who's been through so much, he doesn't want to be invited to something because he has one hand. He doesn't.
I don't care. I don't care why I get the opportunity, as long as I get the opportunity. If I love football,
that's fine. I'm guessing. I have no idea. I don't know him very well. I don't know him at all.
It'd be better if it was on merit. Of course, it'd be better if it wasn't
I bet
pity.
he would say, no, man, I don't want to be invited like that. I want to be invited on my own merit.
But I'm saying that he should be, and that he's overlooked. It's something. Look, man, there are a million other causes out there where more injustices are being wrought. But I just think this is such an obvious one that benefits everybody. Why the hell wouldn't you give that a chance because you want that in your league?
Sure.
I mean, I cannot tell you. I marvel. I have enjoyed watching that team play for 2 years, at least in part. I mean, their offense has been great, but at least in part because I love watching that kid achieve and overachieve.
This is a wrong that will be righted. Shaquem Griffin will be invited to the NFL Combine. There's plenty of time for them to do it. There's plenty of cases of them adding.
Are you saying whether we do anything or not?
He
so
will
if
be.
you think he's going to get invited, we might as well start it right now, and then we can take the credit for him getting invited. Yes, exactly.
It's honestly, he's probably going to get invited because of what he's doing at the Senior Bowl anyways. And just on merit, too. And this is a bad look for the league. Why wouldn't you invite him just to avoid this bad look?
Well, Mike, how about this, though? How about this? You guys, I mean, back when baseball was something that people cared about as America's national pastime, all of us were marveling at the idea of Jim Abbott, a major league pitcher. None of us understood how he could be a major league pitcher with only one arm. How do you use the glove? How do you bat? He was an exceptional athlete as a hitter. Why wouldn't you welcome that in the greatest possible terms to your league? The idea of a menacing dude running around out there playing football with one bleeping hand. Like someone in the mailroom needs to be let go for an invite not to have been sent to that guy. Like, it's just the easiest thing in the world.
I'd like him to be a part of the NFL, Dan. I think that he probably will. But I do think whether he goes to the combine or not, I think someone's going to draft him.
Were you listening to anything I said that segment?
No, because I have snot in my eye.
Say hello to my little friend.
How were you worse this segment than you were last segment?
Oh, no, I crushed this segment, man. I mean, listen, I made the point that if Mike thinks he's going to get there regardless, then we might as well take credit for it and start the campaign right now.
That was the one good point you made during it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick, man. I was here for you when you were sick. I mean, what do you want me to do? I don't feel good, man.
You didn't cough last segment because you were sick. You coughed last segment because you don't know how to eat.
Yeah, it's Shaquem, not Shakam, and that's a fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep resentment.
Don Le Batard.
This is actually what happened during the break. This is not made up at all. That's Stugatz clearing his throat with
we
the cough
button. We got to fix this cough button, man.
Or you, or your health.
Yeah, my health's fine, man. No, I just got a physical, got a clean bill of health.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stugatz.
There's no way that you got a clean bill of health.
I'm telling you.
You must hit that cough button 75 times a show.
Dan, I'm telling you, I got a clean bill of health. I got all checks in the yes column. I'm good.
All right, your doctor's incompetent.
Perhaps.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
Bob Costas is skipping the Super Bowl. He says the decision to skip the Super Bowl is mutually agreeable between he and NBC. And I want to get back to what we were talking about. In the modern age, have we killed the historic broadcaster? Once Bob Costas is done with Al Michaels, with Vin Scully, what's going to be left?
A-Rod.
Okay, you made that joke already, but honestly, what's going to be left? Is it done? Is the time done? A-Rod is going to go do Sunday Night Baseball with Matt Vasgersian. Who is coming? Joe Buck is getting out now. Joe Buck is out. Right? He's going to. Isn't it being reported that he has,
I hope so.
He has said that. What do you mean you hope so?
No, I mean I hope so. I hope so for your sake, right? You just put that up. All right.
Wait a minute, you guys. Hasn't it been? I thought it was known that Joe Buck has publicly said he's not going to be doing this very much longer.
He has hinted at retirement.
Okay, you guys are reacting as if I'm breaking some sort of news on here. Like,
yeah, you are. You made it seem like he was like hanging up.
I think Joe Buck soon is going to be done with some of these big assignments. And so what I'm asking you is, who's next? Is there such a thing as who's next? Who's going to step into the void? Is Tirico going to be allowed to be Bob Costas and Al Michaels?
Tony Romo. I'm serious. Like are you looking for a local level broadcaster? Is that what you're talking about?
No, Scott. I'm just talking about in 2050. Is there going to be a broadcaster that we think of in the terms that we now think of Bob Costas and Al Michaels? We don't need these kinds of guides anymore.
Sure.
We have all our ways of getting our information. The broadcaster doesn't matter that way, the way the broadcaster used to matter on AM radio when Vin Scully was painting pictures because you couldn't get the broadcast.
I'm seeing from December 2016 that he has hinted at stopping doing baseball broadcasting.
So thank you, Fats and Info. So, and maybe you don't care about this at all, Stugotz, but I'm just wondering, as technology is one of the victims of 2018 short attention span technology, we can get our stuff a million different places, that we've killed the legendary sports broadcaster as a national phenomenon, that you can have your local guys who have been broadcasting games for 50 years in your market.
Right.
But that that Costas and Al Michaels, that they're going to take this with them, that Joe Buck, they're going to take this time with them, that we're never going to allow any more Vin Scullys.
I think we are.
All right, so who's next?
Well, Gus Johnson was on his way, and then he went to Fox.
Yeah.
Big mistake, because he was the voice of March Madness. That's a shame. He needs to get back to voicing March Madness because he was super popular. Tony Romo, even though it's recency bias, he's on his way. Collinsworth might be, even though a lot of people don't like him.
Well, but do you guys believe that my premise is flawed? Do you guys believe that, no, Dan, what are you talking about? A bunch of different people are going to step into the breach and become the next Bob Costas, Al Michaels, because I do think we're kind of saying goodbye to a time, because the broadcast experience is so fragmented,
right,
that you have very few occasions for Do You Believe in Miracles where the entire country is watching something. The Super Bowl is one of the few places, and Costas is begging out. Costas is like, I don't really want to do it anymore.
Well,
But
mutually.
Right, mutually. Don't you think, though, just by extension, so at some point Sean McDonough will be done doing Monday Night Football. Someone else will be in that booth. By extension, aren't they the voice? Like, Mike Breen's going to be done one day. Maybe Ryan Rucco, a young broadcaster who's excellent. Maybe he's the next.
No, but hold on, though. I'm not talking about excellent broadcasters like Mike Breen, who has been the voice of basketball for a lot of people. Mike Breen is as good at what he does as anybody is, but nobody thinks of Mike Breen in the class that I'm talking about, which is Cosell.
Right.
It's Bob Costas.
Michaels.
It's the very high end of the food chain. Mike Breen still has to do 1 million games a year. Michaels has to show up for half a dozen.
Yeah, Marv Albert would have had that had he not ruined it. And now all he's doing is just standing in the way of my man Kevin Harlan.
Well, you say ruined it, but Marv Albert, there's no way that Marv Albert could go in the modern age through what he went through in the tabloid age and survive it as a broadcaster. There is Marv Albert was a beneficiary of having all his private stuff made public at a time before we evaporated careers because of it. Because the idea that Marv Albert is still out there broadcasting games when he has a scandal involving biting a woman and wearing lingerie is one of the most amazing things of my sports lifetime.
He's still so good, though.
Yeah. He's so very good. Yeah. But it's a damn shame most of us don't get to hear a total Kevin Harlan game because he's regulated to the second game of the
He was wearing women's underwear. Imagine that happening in 2018. And now imagine it's me.
Not that big of a stretch.
A public scandal. involving my arrest and the tabloids getting a hold of it. Le Batard wearing women's undergarments. You think I survive it?
Guillermo, I think you do, yeah. I don't think people will be that surprised.
Guillermo, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Would Dan's career survive a very public scandal involving him wearing women's undergarments? Again, that's not something. There are many people in our audience right now who have no idea what this story is that I'm telling.
I know.
Is it the majority of the audience that doesn't even, they just think of Marv Albert as yes, and they don't think of Marv Albert as yes.
Yes, a majority, I think, has no idea what we're talking about. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Put it on the poll.
Yes.
This cannot be a shock to America right now that I'm revealing for the first time that Marv Albert wore panties.